Excellent speech, important speech, crucial speech. And this is really at the heart of the matter, the character of the gentleman in the White House. And I use the term gentleman very generously. And this is really what we're fighting for. This is why we're here tonight. And we really have a diverse community of folks from our community who are here today. We have leadership in business, leadership in government here today. And is my brother, David Clunie, here yet? David, are you here yet?
Yes, I am. I'm here.
Excellent. Let me call on David. David, and let me also say this, for folks who are on Facebook Live, if you guys want to get over on Zoom too, that's okay. We'll let you get in on Zoom, whichever makes you happy. And if you want to stay on Facebook Live, that's fine too. Let me say that right quick. We're live streaming on Facebook. For some reason, our community tends to prefer Facebook. I'm not quite sure why, but as long as we're reaching you, we're fine. David really speaks to a different constituency here. When we say build back better, there is actually meat and potatoes to that phrase. And there are folks who are really working hard, advocating on our behalf, and that's how we've gotten here. And that's where we get the meat on the meat and potato on that policy. David is Executive Director of the Black Economic Alliance. David, have the floor.
Thank you, Felix. Thank you for having me. And I'm happy to be a part of this important conversation. Less than a week away from absolutely the most important election of our lives. The Black Economic Alliance is a group of Black business leaders that came together after the 2016 election and both realized that economic outcomes were not good enough for Black folks, even before Donald Trump was elected, that we couldn't accept the status quo anymore, but particularly that we were headed in a very bad direction and that we needed to organize and do something and come together. So in 2017, a group of about 80 Black CEOs and senior corporate executives came together with senior government officials, including Kamala Harris, Cory Booker, Eric Holder, Susan Rice, Deval Patrick, and others, and said, what can we do? What can we do with our collective power and energy to drive better outcomes for Black folks? So we formed this organization. We support candidates. We weigh in on economic policy. We also work with the private sector and do things like help them use their resources to invest in Black communities and in Black talent. So that is just backdrop for how we're looking at this election. And I'll tell you about our journey as an organization with the Biden-Harris ticket. Earlier this year, back last year, we had a presidential candidates forum where we spoke to every presidential candidate who would speak with us and talk to them about their Black economic agenda. And then earlier this year in January and February, we had every Democratic nominee on a call and heard from them about their plans. Joe Biden joined, as did all the others when it was a more crowded field. Earlier in the year when Joe Biden became the presumptive nominee, he put out a plan called the Lift Every Voice plan for Black America. And I'll be very honest with this group, we were not 100% satisfied with it. We thought it didn't have innovative enough thinking. It had some good things from the Obama administration and some things from the past, but we knew, and I think this was even before George Floyd, we knew we needed bold vision, leadership, and engagement on our issues, and that we, obviously whatever we've been doing in the past was just not good enough. So I'm really happy to say that when we expressed that opinion to the Biden campaign, this is even before Kamala Harris was chosen as the pick, as the vice presidential nominee, they were extremely receptive. And I think George Floyd happened around that time, and just the tone of the conversation around race changed. Not that we didn't have engagement from the campaign before, but it really ignited a new energy and a new sense of urgency on their part to get these issues right, to be much bolder and to lean in. I just came from another call with Cedric Richmond, Congresswoman Barbara Lee, and a number of other folks who were talking about Joe Biden and his administration's, basically they want to be, Donald Trump talks about he's been the best president for the Black community since Abraham Lincoln. That speaks for itself. That is absolutely false, but Joe Biden is making an effort to, in fact, be a bolder administration than we've ever been for Black folks. And I think it's important to compare that to the Obama administration, which I worked in I worked on the Obama campaign in 2008 out in Iowa, and I worked in the White House as a lawyer and then at the Treasury Department for 4 years in the front office for 2 different Treasury secretaries. And I can say, I think we see that we needed to be much bolder. There are a lot of great things we did, but we need to be bolder in our asks. We need to be bolder in what we're asking for and how we're asking for it, and that is absolutely what the Biden campaign has been about. And as we've talked with them about trying to improve upon the Lift Every Voice plan, they were able to come together with the racial equity plan, which is one of the 4 pillars of the Build Back Better plan. And essentially, it has an eye toward making sure that everything the campaign does in its economic plans has a racial equity lens, and that they are not only making plans that bring along the Black community and bring along other communities, the Latinx community, the Native American community, and others, but that they are specifically designed to counteract the generational impacts of things like redlining and the lack of opportunity we've had to build generational wealth. So when in the racial equity plan, we're talking about small business support, public-private partnerships, increasing access to capital for small businesses, it is extremely important that there's an understanding from Joe Biden and obviously Kamala Harris about why this is important. And we at the Black Economic Alliance talk in terms of what it means for the entire US economy, for the Black economy to do better. So we often cite 2 studies. There was one, a McKinsey & Company study from last year, from 2019, that said, if you were to close the Black-white wealth gap, you could add between 4 to 6% growth to US real GDP by 2028. And also Citi, the financial institution, put out a report back in September that showed the US economy has lost $16 trillion of growth as a result of racial inequality over the last 20 years. That's $800 billion per year of lost opportunity, growth, and activity as a result of racial inequality. The Biden-Harris ticket absolutely understands that, and they understand that going into one of the worst financial situations of our lifetimes, they're going to have to figure out how to grow the entire economy, and that an absolutely necessary component of that is fixing a lot of the structural damage that has been done to the Black community in terms of our ability to gain access and opportunity to build wealth, to get access to capital, to get access to the good paying jobs, workforce opportunities, and so forth. So I will leave it there on the economic side. I'll also say, this is a really unique year in terms of the power of the Black vote. The Black Economic Alliance put out a study on Monday that showed that Black voters make up the majority of voters, and I know it's not as relevant to these states tonight, but that we make up the majority of Black voters in Mississippi, Georgia, and almost the majority in South Carolina. That is to essentially demonstrate, when you hear Black folks say, my vote doesn't matter, our votes absolutely matter. And in Michigan, for example, Michigan was lost by 11,000 votes in 2016. So much of that was because Black voters did not show up, and that's not to say it's our fault. There are a lot. There's more than enough blame to go around, but it's to say we have the opportunity to make a difference. More than 11,000 Black voters just in the city of Detroit did not show up to vote in 2016, and we know that if we were to change the 2016 voting levels of Black voters back to 2012 levels in just 3 of the battleground states, that would change the outcome of the election in 2016. So this is all to demonstrate that it is absolutely necessary that we show up, and when we do, we can have a real impact. And I am really optimistic about us having a seat at the table with this new administration in a way that Black folks never have, even when Barack Obama was in office, not because he didn't try, but because we have a different landscape and a different context to talk about and work on racial inequality than we ever have. So I really look forward to doing that with the Biden-Harris administration, but we have to win in order to govern, and we have to show up. So there's no path to victory without going through the states that are on this call tonight: Ohio, Wisconsin, Michigan. I thank you all for being here, and I look forward to working with you all when we're victorious next week. But we have to do the work between now and Tuesday, and run through the tape on Tuesday night and bring home this victory for to restore the soul of America, as Joe Biden has said. So thank you all for having me. Felix, I appreciate the opportunity to speak with this group tonight.
My pleasure, my brother. My pleasure. My pleasure. Jay.
Thank you, David. That was really quite good. And as they say, the power of the vote, carpe diem, seize the day, make sure that you vote, make sure that you take people with you. And absolutely, the landscape has changed, and it is ours to really take what is changing and to craft it and to shape it with a new administration that we want to come in next week. You cited the McKinsey studies that rightly spoke about the power as well of our Black business opportunities and what could lay before us. And equally, McKinsey has done studies on the business landscape on the continent of Africa and the economic outlooks there with some of the lions of Africa, as we say. We know that it's home to some of the fastest growing economies in the world. And as we said this evening, there are convergence of issues that run between us in terms of what we may be able to do as a Black community here in the US and how that may also translate to other opportunities for us globally. Ambassador Susan Page is going to speak to us next, and she's a good friend. And she has really spent, I think, the entirety of her career focused on the African continent, especially with the State Department and Foreign Service. She was a U.S. Deputy Assistant Secretary. She was also our first ambassador to South Sudan when it became a newly baptized country a decade or so ago. So with that, let me ask Susan Page to please take the mic.
Thank you very much, Janine, and greetings to everyone. I understand there are a lot of people watching and listening on Facebook, so I just want to say 2 points. This is not about me. It's not about any of us who are on this call or who are speaking to you, but it is about us because it's about our future. I'm going to make 2 quick points. Those of you who know my background know that in addition to being overseas in Africa and in Haiti, my career, I'm also a lawyer, and that was my first stop. I want to give you some context about why your vote matters. And I know that there are a lot of people who believe that their vote doesn't matter, it doesn't count. But let me just give you a few statistics. When you disqualify yourself, you disqualify yourself from having a say when you don't vote. When you sit at home, you realize that if you're not out there voting, protesting alone is not going to make the changes that we need to see. Sitting still should not be an option right now. So let me give you some facts. On Tuesday, this vote is not only about who will be the president for the next 4 years. It's about what will be happening to our country for the next 40 years. Let me just be specific. When you fail to vote, you do not understand the judicial legacy that the president leaves long after he is in office. The President of the United States has the power and the authority to place men and women as federal judges across all of the district courts, the appeals courts, and the US Supreme Court. This current president, in his 4 years, has appointed more judges than any other president except Jimmy Carter. As of October 20th of this year, President Donald J. Trump has appointed 220 federal judges to the bench. I'm just going to break it down for you. 3 to the United States Supreme Court. That's 3 of the 9 justices. 53 judges he has appointed, and they have been confirmed by the US appeals courts, and 162 judges for the US district courts. Just to get the numbers straight, 2 have been appointed to the US Court of International Trade. So that's how we get to 220. These 220 federal court judges were nominated by the president, confirmed by the Senate, and they serve lifetime appointments. Trump has appointed now almost 1/4 of all active federal judges in the United States. Now, I'm not saying that you should not protest, that you shouldn't advocate for Black Lives Matter. Absolutely. But it's important that you vote, because When you don't vote, you take yourself out of the picture. When you don't vote, you don't determine who stands at trial. When you don't vote, you don't get to help determine the judge that sits on the bench. So, of the 220 judges who have been appointed, federal court judges who have been appointed by this current president, do you know how many of them are Black or African American? Do you know how many?
Zero.
Zero. Zero. 1/3, I mean, 1/4 of all of these judges that will serve for life, and not one of them looks like us. In all of our hue and tones, not one of them has a Black face. That's shameful. So as much as you're out there protesting about, why Cameron hasn't indicted the cops who killed Breonna Taylor, but even if they're indicted, we don't actually have any say on whatever would happen to them. Regardless of our own circumstances, how lucky we have been, how blessed we have been, almost all of us have been touched by the judicial system, whether it's because we have been stopped while Black, whether it's because we have family members who have been incarcerated, but we certainly know someone who has had a run-in with the law. And we aren't even represented at the federal court level by this president. That's not law and order. That's misrule. So while you're out there protesting about Black Lives Matter, make sure that you don't have somebody else voting on your behalf, because it may look like progress is slow, but they can always take it away. And if you don't think your vote matters, why are they trying so hard to make sure we don't vote? They know it matters. So that's my first point. My second point is about social values. And most of us as Black people, whether we come originally from Africa and we're naturalized American citizens, or we grew up from infancy in the United States, Black people are deeply religious. They are very spiritual. We are spiritual people. I myself am Catholic, and I believe in the values of life. I just want to say that there are equally sacred things than protecting the unborn. It is also about protecting the born. People and families on the economic margins, those who are sick, disabled, and older adults, the victims of human trafficking and economic slavery. We can't ignore economic inequality, and we cannot overlook the situation of migrants. As a Catholic, these are part and parcel of our Catholic social teaching. And as Christians, Muslims, and people of African traditional faiths, these are all fundamental. These are not unique to one particular denomination. And I would say that these are values that Vice President Biden believes in, that his vice presidential candidate, Harris, believes in, and they are fighting for. So please make your vote count and know that you are voting for people with morals and values and who will fight for us. Thank you, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak.
Oh, wow. Thank you, Ambassador Page. I mean, after this, if you don't vote, I don't know what else you want. This gives meaning to the phrase, we're voting to protect our interest and advance our agenda. This is what it means. So this is what that phrase means. And thank you so very much for putting it together in words with statistics to back it up in a manner that would really get our community to act. Folks, this is what this conversation here today is about. This is really what this election is about. This is what Biden-Harris is standing for. This is what they're standing to stop and to protect us. We have to have people in the legislature. We have to have people also in the judiciary who protect and advance our interests. And thank you so very much, Ambassador Susan Page. We have a gentleman who is at the leadership of the DNC. As I said, this is Black folks looking out for Black folks and advancing our agenda. This is really what's happening here today. And this is what we want to vote for. We have a gentleman, he's out of New York, but he's all over the country. He's the vice chair of the DNC. He ensures that the party makes a conscious effort to put our interest on its agenda, makes a conscious effort to ensure that people like us are running for office and are given the resources to run and be successful. He also ensures that our agenda is always on the table. Without taking up much more of your time, let me bring in Assemblyman Michael Blake, New York 79th District and Vice Chair of the DNC. Michael, floor is yours, my brother.
Felix, I appreciate you. I need that kind of energy all the time. It's a blessing to be with you. I don't know why I have to speak after Ambassador Page, who dropped all those statistics right now, which I don't know what I'm supposed to do after that. And then after David Clunie, which I think this is either the second or third one I've done with Clunie this week as well. Yes, I do have on a mask because I'm moving around and being safe. It's a blessing to be with family always. And we all are smart people. We do whatever Sister Scott tells us to do. That's why we are all here tonight. Everybody, first, I just want to say thank you for being on a Friday night. If I can be very open and honest, I am deliriously exhausted, which is exactly what you should be 4 days before an election. A very true story. I'm staying at my buddy's house, and I was doing laundry today, and I had a moment when I looked and I realized that I put my clothes in the dryer instead of the washer. And I was like, yep, that's GOTV time. That's when you know you are in the final days of a campaign right there. Look, everybody, I feel very confident we're going to win this thing next week. And everything is pointing towards that. When I get asked about how does this compare to 2016, there are sizable differences here. First we got to keep in mind the number of people in the three core states, Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, when we're talking less than 75,000. There were many people that were not excited about voting for either candidate, fair or not, and there's no reason for us to pick and choose over that. Michigan, for example, more people voted third party or no party than the difference on how Trump defeated Secretary Clinton. We're not talking about large margins here. Versus now, when you look at the states, the fact that Vice President Biden and I will say our soon to be next president and our soon to be our next Vice President Harris are at that 50% threshold. The reason why this is so critical, and I would encourage you all, 538.com would be the site, as well as Dave Wasserman are the ones for public information. There's some internal data we can't discuss, but if you are at 50% 4 days out as the challenger, it is very, very, very unlikely that undecideds are breaking to the incumbent at that point, because they know that candidate already. So undecideds in that limited number more than likely are either breaking Biden, or they may be choosing not to vote for the president election, but they'll vote on down ballot. When you see that Texas, for example, Texas today surpassed their 2016 turnout as of today with another day of early voting and election day. When you see that in Florida, they had 351,000 people vote on the first day of early voting, making a historic turnout there. When you see many of us, myself included, are going to be in Philadelphia tomorrow through the end, I do believe Pennsylvania will be the epicenter of this election, and that will determine how quickly we feel good about this thing come Tuesday night. When you think about the data accordingly, you know, the only real path for Trump is he's hoping that non-college educated whites bring him home, not just in Pennsylvania, but in Michigan, Wisconsin, but I just don't see that happening. However, we cannot avoid the fact that when you look at how they are trying to attack Black votes, in particular in Philly and West Philly, and you cannot ignore the loss of life and the murder, quite frankly, of Walter Wallace Jr., that has impacted Black seniors more so than anyone, because there was a curfew in Philadelphia. They were reluctant to go out. And the attentiveness now has to be for those of us of saying we will not allow them to stop us. I saw someone put in the chat the National Voter Protection Hotline, and I appreciate that. You do not have to be a lawyer to be engaged in our voter protection efforts. Many people will be staffing the hotlines across the states. We have about 17 states of presence, and we are doing an active effort on curing of the ballots. And what do I mean by that? You may have a place where in North Carolina is probably the best example of this, where you've turned in your ballot and then you get notice back where you didn't sign it, and therefore you have a set day window to respond back. Every state has variants on that, and we are actually having volunteers prepare us to get us ready for this. So if you have the ability and the time to help us chase down those ballots, that's paramount, because that could be the difference between winning a state by 1% or losing it by 1%. I also want us to be patient while also reflective of positivity. Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Michigan, they cannot start their ballot counting process until E-Day. However, regardless of that, because of the overwhelming numbers that we know are going to come in from Philly, know that will come in from the Milwaukee area, know that will come in from Detroit and Lansing, it almost doesn't matter what has to happen. Given the current stats, the incumbent individual one is what I call him, the person that is in the best public housing in America, because I don't like to say his name. He probably has to get 63 to 64% of the vote on election day to compensate what's been happening thus far, which just has not happened in their counter range. I mean, the numbers we're talking about are pretty surreal. The fact that we sent our next vice president to Texas should show you of how we feel about Texas. Do you really think we would be sending a principal to Texas 4 days out unless the numbers were showing us something? It will be public within the next 24 hours of the presence that's going to happen in Pennsylvania from the principals itself. And equally, you'll be able to see the dynamic duel in Michigan. You know, I always get excited whenever we bring out the big boss when he comes on stage. As you can tell, he does not care right now. He's saying what's clearly on his mind. And so giving you that perspective from the numbers, giving you that perspective of how we feel and where things are at. Let me just close with a very poignant, emotional, direct sentiment. Sorry for my pause. I see there's a elderly gentleman at the pickup. He's sitting on the sidewalk, so just to make sure he was okay. Donald Trump asked 4 years ago to Black people and quite frankly to the country, what do you have to lose? And the very direct answer is your life. I know we're on a formal call, but again, allow the Bronx Jamaican in me to come out. The fact that this despicable asshole today had the audacity to say that doctors made more money because people died from COVID. And if you did not see it, he actually said that on stage today. That's who this man is. That is what we're up against for the next 4 days. And if you think they're going to let us just take this, they're going to do everything possible to try to steal this. And so we need you to be ready to go to these states, have your mask on, be socially distant. We need you to make phone calls. We need you to do text banks. I got about 12 people coming down from New York first thing tomorrow morning to Philly. Stephanie Arthur, literally, my sister Stephanie. There's a crew from DC going up. I refuse to let him win this thing. because Joe Biden is a damn good man. And Kamala Harris is a sensational sister. I vividly think about my 46-year-old friend Ezekiel Cousins, who's not here any longer because he died of COVID. I think about how I had to watch my sister's funeral over Zoom last week because she lives in London and passed away. Those are the things going through my mind. And so my fatigue is irrelevant because our people need us to win. So if you want to come to Pennsylvania, you want to go to any other states, if you want to be with us on this journey, you can reach out to me, mb79@dnc.org, mb79@dnc.org. That is my email. One more time, mb as in Michael Blake 79@dnc.org. Drop me a note. I will connect you to any of the states you want to get connected to. I will connect you to the teams in those respective states. This really is, as the vice president said last year prophetically, we're fighting for the soul of the nation. And that's what these next 4 days have to be. So I thank you all for giving me the opportunity to be with you. You all look real good on a Friday night. I don't know where y'all going, all over the country. But I appreciate you. And for those I'll see over the weekend, I can't wait to see you and celebrate with you. Forgive me, last thing, people have been asking me this a lot. Will we know a number? Will we know on Tuesday night? I think it will be very difficult to definitively say races have been called. But I think it will be pretty clear that Biden has won this thing and they just won't call it yet. And thank you for those that have been checking in with me. I appreciate you. Just because of where the numbers will be, okay, itself. And for those that have been asking, my last 24, 36 hours, are we prepared and preparing for when we're up and if he chooses to make it difficult and if his army of supporters make it difficult? That simple answer is yes. But it is our hope that we take care of business on Tuesday so that we don't have to worry about that. We got 4 days to save the country. Let's go do it. Thank you, Felix.
Thank you, my brother. Thank you. Jay, I
Yeah. Oh, wow. Felix, Michael, thank you. Your perspective is candid and sobering at the same time. And it really makes us even more fully understand the purpose and our call to it. That combined with the statistics that we got, I think it really does put things gravely into perspective for us. And it also gives us the orders that we need to continue to carry this thing out for the last 4 days, as you say, and as the campaign says, we are fighting for the soul of this nation and for our own souls as well. So thank you for always showing up for us. Thank you for everything that you are doing. I do hope that you are able to get some rest, if not this weekend and into early next week, shortly thereafter, and that you will be able to pop a good bottle when you're getting that rest. So thank you.
I'm going to hop off in a moment, but I absolutely have my Appleton rum ready. My Angels Envy and Basil Hayden are there also. I've been real clear. I told some of my staff earlier today, do not expect me to do anything productive Wednesday through Friday. I'm just telling you that right now.
But do you have the Ray and nephew?
Oh, you ready? Let me tell you, I had some Ray and nephew yesterday. My brother, today's his birthday, so he was hanging out in Maryland. So I told him, give me that Ray and nephew with some coconut water. I took it real old school. Now, if I would have done it like my daddy, you get Ray and nephew with white milk. That's how the old Jamaican dudes would drink it. But at that point, you can't survive the night. So I was like, no. But I'm ready, and we should all be ready.
Enough to carry you through. God.
All right. Love
Thank
you
you
all.
so much,
Love you
Michael.
all. Appreciate y'all. I see people in Philly who are going to be up there.
Carry
We
on.
love
and
you
we're
more.
Giving you white lights and courage. Courage.
You know, this is a lot of effort. And I hope that the passion to which our brother Michael just spoke, really broke through. I hope that the pointed messages that we've heard so far are breaking through. But this is a campaign. Folks are going to be marching and going out into the field tomorrow through the election day. It costs money. You know, my other brother who's going to come up, the way he puts it, I think I'm probably going to butcher it, but I'll try anyways. We're not in it for the money, but without money, we're not in it. So we got to vote. We have to phone bank. We got to donate. This campaign is about to put boots on the ground. And that costs money. I could not be more blunt and plain about that. No amount is too big. No amount is too small. Jay, do we bring in UFO? I try to avoid UFO. Do we bring him in before a musical, before